out for the purpose of your body, soul, and mind.
Welcome, folks, to the hour of the time. This is the only hour that ever was or ever will be. This is the most important hour in your entire life. For during this hour, you will decide your future and thus our collective futures. I'm your host, William Cooper, and tonight we're going to talk about something that is not taught in our schools anymore, that Americans mostly have forgotten. That is the cornerstone upon which this entire nation was built. If you don't understand what you're going to hear on this program, then you don't understand our founding fathers, the ideals and principles that this nation was founded upon. Indeed, if you don't understand what you're going to hear tonight on this program, then you really don't know anything about this nation called the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight's show, folks, is dedicated sincerely to all of those people who understand that eternal vigilance and sometimes great personal sacrifice is still the price of freedom. And that without the vigorous pursuit of this individual responsibility of citizenship, even Americans will not forever remain a free people. It is also dedicated to all of those citizens who have not yet considered these things in the hope that they will be inspired. I firmly believe that any man or woman without principles that they are ready and willing to die for at any given moment that such sacrifice is required are already dead and are of no use or consequence to anyone. This country was founded upon a great idea which we are going to discuss a little later in this program. That great idea was the motivation for the writing of the Declaration of Independence and for the formation of the Constitution of the United States of America, and then later the first 10 amendments to that Constitution, which are known as the Bill of Rights. The story of our Constitution is a story about freedom, especially individual freedom. It is a story, folks, to remind us of how a great people struggled and sacrificed to set themselves free from the tyranny of excessive government. The great price they paid and the difficulties they faced in securing that freedom for all posterity. It is a story that explains the reasons for the rapid rise of a freedom-loving people to the greatest among all nations. A rise made possible because the people were, indeed, free to create it. Finally, it is the story of how some of those freedoms eventually began to slip away, very slowly and subtly, of how the citizens' sensitivity to those lost freedoms became dulled, of how we began to change our ideas about liberty of the individual versus a powerful central government, and of how we lost our understanding of the Founding Fathers' ideas on liberty. Because somebody forgot to teach us these things in the homes, the churches, the public schools, and colleges. While I cannot here make up for the educational void, folks, I do hope to help generate special interest in our Constitution during this program and the programs to follow over the months and hopefully years. I have attempted to identify and talk and write about the major philosophical concepts underlying our Constitution and the great principles included in it. Where these great ideas came from and how they were formulated into what Sir William Gladstone, the eminent English statesman, has called, quote, the most wonderful work ever struck off at a given time by the brain and purpose of man, unquote. Our Constitution is ageless because it is a living Constitution. It is not just some old document struck off 200 years ago by doting old men who don't understand the problems of the modern world. For those men understood and knew that they could not foresee all of the problems and all of the possibilities of such a great people for the future. So they included within the document its ageless properties, its very life, the ability for it to outlive them and their posterity, and indeed live forever. For within the document itself are the means with which to amend it, according to the procedures and only those procedures outlined within the Constitution. And they created these procedures within the document to be slow acting, so that no change could be brought about at the spur of the moment through emotional distress or through error. And that no small body called Congress could bring about these changes on their own, and no executive or judicial branch could do it on their own. But it had to have the consideration and the consent of the whole people, the whole people. For our forefathers, the founders of this great nation, would only trust their liberties to the whole people. It all started with the Declaration of Independence. John Adams said this in 1781. This immortal declaration of the 4th of July, 1776, was not the effect of any sudden passion or enthusiasm, but a measure which had long been in deliberation among the people, maturely discussed in some hundreds of popular assemblies and by public writings in all the states. It was a measure which Congress, Continental, did not adopt until they had received the positive instructions of their constituents in all the states. It was then unanimously adopted by Congress, subscribed by all its members, transmitted to the assemblies of these several states, and by them respectively accepted, ratified, and recorded among their archives, so that no decree, edict, statute, placard, or fundamental law of any nation was ever made with more solemnity or with more unanimity or cordiality adopted as the act and consent of the whole people than this. And it has been held sacred to this day by every state with such unshaken firmness that not even the smallest has ever been induced to depart from it, although the English have wasted many millions and vast fleets and armies in the vain attempt to invalidate it. The Pennsylvania State House was hot, humid, and charged with emotion as representatives from the 13 colonies came together in June and July of 1776 to consider severing their allegiance to an oppressive government, quote, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God, unquote, entitled them. Every man felt the enormous significance of the moment. In a June 9, 1776 letter, John Adams confided, quote, objects of the most stupendous magnitude and measures in which the lives and liberties of millions yet unborn are intimately interested are now before us.